I'm the Executive Director for the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition in Massachusetts. We are so excited to have all of you joining us today. We will be welcoming Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley shortly. We have here with us Senator Jamie Eldridge and our awarded recipients for the Peg Erlanger Award. And that includes Leslie Credle from Justice for Housing and Stacey Borden for beginning new entry re-entry services. What I'd like to do right now is take a moment and have our board and our coalition each introduce ourselves before we kick off these events. I defer to our board president to start.
Hi, thank you. My name is Cynthia Goldberg, president of the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition and founding director of the F8 Foundation. I want to extend our gratitude to Congresswoman Pressley, as well to Senator Jamie Eldridge for donating your valuable time and for all the work that you do in the community. And a special thank you to Stacey and Leslie, certainly for all your outstanding work that you do for us. Thank you.
Eric?
Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Tenon. I am the treasurer of the CJPC board. I am an attorney in Boston. I've been a part of this organization for, I don't know, maybe 10 years. And this is one of the most star-studded award ceremonies we've had in a long while. So this is just really, really great. I'm just so happy that we got to put this together. And thank you everyone for coming.
Nat.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nat Harrison. I am active in a CJPC subcommittee that has been working to abolish life without parole sentences in Massachusetts and to guarantee parole eligibility for all. Sorry.
Real life happens in the Zoom world. Deb?
Yeah, so I'm Deb Goldfarb. I'm another board member. I'm a social worker who works at Boston Medical Center and also part-time lecturer at BU. Really excited to be here amongst so many powerful and passionate advocates.
Lexi.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Lexi Brunel. I've been a board member for a couple of years, and I am a public defender in Middlesex County.
Great. And last but not least, Nalati.
Hi, I'm Nalati. I'm another board member. I have been on the board for actually about a year now, and it's a great time. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. And outside of here, I'm a fair housing testing coordinator for Community Legal Aid.
Wonderful. So now our board members are going to be exiting and we're going to be getting ready for Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley to join us. Just give us one moment as we make this transition. What a world of COVID we're in. Everyone's learning how to do this in a different way as we go. Wonderful. So in just a few moments, we will be having Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley be joining us to present the Peg Erlanger Award. And in this award, this year is to honor Peg Erlanger, who is a former member of the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition Board. Peg was a member of the CJPC board for the better part of the first decade of this century. Hello, Congresswoman. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm just giving the intro. We are so happy to see you.
Good to be with you.
Peg Erlanger was intimately involved with Alternatives to Violence Project at the national and the international levels. Peg was firmly convinced of the need to eliminate life without parole, and she helped guide this project through many phone calls and emails with one of the authors, as well as using her position with the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition Board as a chair to ensure that these organizations remain supportive and were able to carry out the missions. Her dedication to moving beyond retributive justice provides continued inspiration for the board and the community. It was only natural to have Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley join us today to present the awards to Stacey, Borden, and Leslie Credle. She paved the way for their work and has worked side by side with them as they developed their organizations on their journeys that they continue to take. Congresswoman Pressley is an advocate, a policymaker, an activist, and a survivor. On November 6, 2018, Congresswoman Pressley was elected to represent Massachusetts' 7th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives. This making her the first woman of color to be elected to Congress from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The Massachusetts 7th is the most diverse and most unequal district in the state, requiring a representative whose experiences are reflective of the people. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It is wonderful to be in virtual community with you, to join alongside what I would consider to be my siblings in the work of justice seeking. Thank you, Linda, for that very humbling and warm introduction. Thank you to the board members of the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition. Thank you to my brother in arms, my colleague in the Senate, a pace setter on these issues for a long time, and a dear friend for a long time as well. And thank you for really the privilege to present the Peg Erlanger Award to two women, who I should say that today is the 50th anniversary of Shirley Chisholm's campaign launch for the US presidency. And just a little known fact, I share my office in Longworth 1108 used to be her office. Okay, so I'm bringing all that Chisholm mojo to this moment, and very appropriate on that anniversary that we would honor two trailblazing women who have been table shakers and justice seekers and community builders and disruptors of trauma. And I'm just so glad that we are giving you your hard-earned, much-deserved flowers. Thank you for centering the humanity and dignity of people in all things. Thank you for being empathetic leaders. Thank you for being brave, innovative, and collaborative leaders. We're just grateful for your many civic contributions to improving the lives of those. Certainly in the Massachusetts 7th, I have to be parochial and I'm very biased, and throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And of course, I want to acknowledge the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition for your collective organizing and unyielding resolve to promote public safety policies that actually keep people safe. As I said, I consider you to be my siblings in this movement and in this work. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I always do that because I need us to sing. We need to continue to sing about these injustices. We have a criminal legal system that is void of justice, fixated on incarceration, and really honoring the legacy of this country, the true legacy, which is to treat trauma with more trauma. And this is by design. For generations, those in power were intentional and precise. None of this is by happenstance in legislating hurt and harm. And so I say policy is my love language because I believe if we can exact hurt and harm through our lawmaking, then we can and we must legislate equity, legislate healing, and legislate justice. And CJPC's work is so critical to centering those directly impacted and to ending the inhumane, moral public health crisis that is mass incarceration. You all have heard me say many times before that, and I seek to do more than to say it, but to practice it, that the people closest to the pain should be the closest to the power, driving and informing the policymaking. And that is exactly why, through the process of cooperative governing, we had a robust people's process, working with impacted families, many of you in those currently and formerly incarcerated to introduce the People's Justice Guarantee, a comprehensive decarceration-focused and trauma-informed resolution, which outlines a framework for a more fair, equitable, and just legal system, which centers the humanity and the dignity of people. And again, this resolution was crafted through a participatory process in close partnership with those directly impacted, including those behind the wall, survivors, and others living with trauma. And the People's Justice Guarantee has informed several other bills that I've introduced in Congress, everything from abolishing the federal death penalty to the Ending Pushout Act to my Fixed Clemency Act, which is a bold and critical step in dismantling the carceral system and returning folks to their loved ones and communities. But I know, like you, that no single piece of legislation can undo centuries of policy violence, which has fueled mass incarceration. And just like I know that one bill can't undo centuries of harm, I know that no one person can do this work. And that's why I'm so grateful for your partnership and for the leadership and the personal sacrifices of the two extraordinary women that we're honoring this evening. We all have a role to play in this movement, and we must do this work rooted in community in order to ensure that we continually center the voices of those most impacted, and we must do this work with compassion. This is how we combat the trauma perpetuated by our criminal legal system. So today, at this virtual table, I'm honored to recognize two women who have been committed to these principles, to award recipient Stacey Borden. She's the founder of New Beginnings Reentry Services and has consistently been on the front lines of advocating for women returning home, making sure that they have access to resources and opportunity. And Leslie Credle, the Director of Justice for Housing. Leslie, like Stacey, is tireless in her fight to end housing discrimination for those who return home. Both of these women are well deserving of CJPC's Peg Erlanger Award. We are giving you your flowers, ladies, my sisters. And now I know that you both have already received your physical award, but we can still all celebrate these two justice seekers and community builders, trauma disruptors, Stacey Borden and Leslie Credle. Let's give them a robust round of applause there, show our gratitude. Thank you for your service. Thank you for leading with grace, empathy, creativity. We celebrate you for being bold, and we celebrate you for just being extraordinary people. And thank you all again for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Congresswoman. This is such an honor and such a privilege. And every time we see your work, we are just so continuously motivated. Thank you. I would love for Stacey to say a few words, followed by Leslie.
Thank you so much. What an honor to receive the Peg Erlanger Award and presented by a fabulous woman, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. Thank you. Congratulations to you, Leslie. Shout out to my family, my partner, and the team for working tirelessly and staying determined to provide services to our participants at our Women Empowerment Home. This award is for you. No one person can do this work by themselves. It takes a great team. To all the donors, community members, and our fabulous funders for believing in our mission and generously supporting our mission, thank you. Sending special prayers to our two sisters in the movement that has transitioned this past week. May your spirits fly free. Thank you, Linda, and to the CJPC Board of Directors for acknowledging the work we do for our community of women that deserve to be acknowledged. I am really honored to be given this Peg Erlanger Award. She was committed to prisoners' rights and rehabilitation. If it weren't for women like Peg, Harriet Tubman, Angela Davis, Ashada Shakur, Gloria Steinem, Andrea James, Rachel Rollins, and of course, Congresswoman Pressley, and so many others that fought this fight for women's rights and advocacy against these oppressive systems, we wouldn't be here today. The work of the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition, dedicated to building support for policies that better protect our communities, promote accountability, and change. It really moves me. We must understand that incarcerated people are victims, and policies need to reflect that. It is our duty to tell our story, share our lived experiences, focus on changes that must be made within the injustice system, make sacrifices beyond the duties of elected officials, as community members, as human beings, because it's the right thing to do. People matter, and more importantly, our incarcerated members matter. Here at MBRS, we are dedicated to working and reducing recidivism by advocating for and providing services to women who are re-entering local neighborhoods and communities. We work to build alliances, collaborations, and networks that create positive changes in policies that negatively impact women in the criminal justice system. Participants learn to express feelings appropriately, improving their social skills and relationships while strengthening their numerous roles they play in their personal and professional lives. There has been a discovery that those who receive drama therapy show a significant improvement in their self-esteem, their self-image, and self-discipline. MBRS believes that one of the most important therapies in treating trauma is the use of expressive therapy and drama arts, transforming old behaviors and restoring the new. In closing, a quote from Malcolm X. We ourselves have to lift the level of our community, take the standards of our community to a higher level, make our own society beautiful so that we can be satisfied. We've got to change our own minds about each other. We have to see each other with new eyes. We have come together with warmth. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Thank you, Stacey, so much. We continue to value you and the work that you do, and you always move me when you speak. And Leslie,
Yeah.
so excited to hear from you.
Thank you, Linda. I want to thank the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition and the Board of Directors for this award today. Congresswoman Pressley, you always speak so eloquently and genuine. I've had the pleasure to work with you on the People's Justice Guarantee primary caretaker bill, as well as Senator Eldridge. I work closely with you. I'm on Senator Eldridge's Leadership Advisory Committee for his solitary confinement bills. And I want to thank everyone who was invited for coming out this evening. It's an honor to accept the Peg Erlanger Award. She was an amazing woman who took her time to go to MCI prison, Concord prison, to advocate for men who had life sentences. If she were here today, she would be proud of the work you're doing, Linda, and the board of directors have done today. Linda has always supported Stacey and I, always the first to encourage us when we post on LinkedIn. She's always there to send words of encouragement. Especially, it feels good when someone notices your hard work and commitment, especially when the work is so personal and hard to do. So I just want to thank the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition for choosing Justice for Housing for this award. It means a lot to me. But, I don't need an award to do this work. When I was released from incarceration, I really didn't know what to do with myself. My daughter was killed by gun violence. I drove my former boss, Andrea James, founder of National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, crazy. I was all over the place until I found my calling. I knew this was my calling when I was viewed as a second-class citizen, right? Viewed as undeserving of housing and employment. The stigma from incarceration follows you. It's like a life sentence. Discrimination, exclusion, doors closing in your face over and over. You are thrown into a world that doesn't accept you. But housing is a fundamental human right. Here at Justice for Housing, we fight for that right. We advocate the right to live somewhere in peace and dignity. to heal from the trauma of incarceration, to have our own personal space where we can exhale. Some of us spend 10, 20, 40 years behind bars. They were released with no direction. We need our own space to learn to live in society. Only then are we able to obtain sustainable employment, maintain our health, pursue educational opportunities. These are the very things that make recidivism less likely, communities safer, and families healthier. Last year, Justice for Housing housed over 39 justice-involved individuals and families, like Lasadia, a mother who was hysterical when her 18-year-old son went to prison. And now the Housing Authority wanted to evict her, make her kick her son out her home. But not on my watch. Not only were we able to keep Lasadia in her home, we brought her son right back into that home that he was denied to live in. This award is also for Jose, who was in prison when his son was taken from his mother's home, placed in foster care. He came home trying to step up to be a father, to obtain housing, to get his son back. We were able to provide Jose with a Section 8 voucher and reunite him with his child. This award is also for Alana, whose husband was a second-degree lifer stuck in prison on parole, who were denied to go home. We were able to reverse that denial and bring a second-degree lifer who the Housing Authority told, we don't want murderers in our housing complexes. We brought Che home, and he's home with his wife and children now. I also do this for Sharon, I was incarcerated with Sharon. After we left the halfway house, she spent 2 years bouncing around from shelter to shelter. She had health problems, heart problems. She called me from the hospital, not because she was in there for her heart. She called me because she cut her wrist, because she received a denial letter from the Housing Authority after spending 2 years in a shelter. They told her, we don't want you because your criminal record. And Sharon was in prison for wire fraud. So we gave Sharon a Section 8 voucher, and she is in housing now. There are 100 Sharons, Jose's, Lasadias, Alanas, who come home from prison broken. Not only are we housing people, we are providing continuum of care. Because when we come home, we're so damaged. Our partners, Whittier Street, City of Boston, we provide financial literacy, mental health, substance abuse. We provide them with continuum of care so they can heal and learn how to live properly and stay in those homes. We made history last year, unprecedented history. We partnered with Boston Housing, the most punitive housing authority in the state. They gave a formerly incarcerated Black woman who was in federal prison for 5 years, 18 Section 8 vouchers to house men and women returning home to the community. That is historic. That has never happened. We are making systems change. We're doing system change work, changing the perception, changing the narrative. This is the work that we do at Justice for Housing, and we're so happy to receive this reward and continue the work we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Your speeches and everything you say just always moves me and our entire board. This has been such an honor and such a privilege to be able to present you both with the Peg Erlanger Award from us. And just as Congresswoman Pressley continues to pave the way for the work that so many people in the community do, along with Senator Eldridge as well. It's very moving, and it's very necessary. And I think that, part of the reason that you are both recipients is because you have those difficult conversations, right? You have them with community leaders, you have them with community members, and there is something to be said for that. You're consistently driving legislation. You really do roll your sleeves up and you're in it. And just the moves that you've made with Justice for Housing and New Beginnings Reentry Services with your new house kicking off, it's, these are the milestones that we continuously get to. And we were having a little technical difficulty in the world that we're in. So I am welcoming back.
I'm trying to come back. I'm trying to come back. Bear with me.
We are absolutely bearing with you, Congresswoman. It is our privilege to have you. She's trying to say a little technical difficulty, which we've all been there, right? There's something been very humanizing about COVID and this internet world that we're in. Our coalition, Senator Eldridge, Stacey, Leslie, we are just so thankful, Congresswoman, for you to join us. And I also do need to say that your team, Congresswoman, is beyond amazing, just absolutely amazing. Every time we see you make a movement and further criminal justice reform, it motivates us. And after interacting with your team for the past couple of weeks to set this up, my heart is full. It's totally full. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It truly means a lot.
Absolutely. It's been, the greatest joy, privilege of my life to be in solidarity with each of you in this work. And I'm so proud of these two. And, I've been saying a lot during these times. There's a mantra that I keep saying from a dear sister friend of mine, which is that, I choose the discipline of hope over the ease of cynicism, and I choose fortitude over fatalism. And it's just a reminder that hope is not something that is organic. It is a practice. It is a discipline. But I will just say that each and every one of you make it easier for me to practice the discipline of hope. So thank you very much for your inspiring examples. Thank you for emboldening the Senator and I and fortifying us in this work. And thank you for your grace in the midst of my technical challenges. And I was still listening, even though you couldn't see me, but I do now have to transition to another commitment. But I wanted to make sure that I could come back and just formally say, I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Congratulations, Stacey and Leslie.
Thank you, Senator. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman.
I will be reaching out to your office.
Congresswoman.
Okay.
Wonderful. And now we have the esteemed privilege and honor to welcome Senator Jamie Eldridge. State Senator Eldridge has served as a state senator for the Middlesex and Worcester District since January 2009. He is representing 14 communities in Metro MASC. He serves as the Senate Chair of the Joint Committee on the Judiciary and the Senate Vice Chair Joint Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Agriculture, and the Senate Committee on Post-Audit and Oversight. As many of you may know out there, and of course on this panel, as an activist legislator, Senator Eldridge is the Senate Chair of the Clean Energy and the Criminal Justice Reform Caucus, Medicare for All, and MBTA causes. Senator Eldridge plays a very important role in these awards, in that we had a previous panel with him as well, with Stacey and Leslie. And something that we really believe at the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition is showing you, the community, how this all happens and how these bills are worked on. And we would love for you, the senator, to be able to touch upon some bills that you have worked on with Stacey and Leslie and the process.
Absolutely. Well, good evening, everyone. If it's still the afternoon, but thank you so much, Linda, for inviting me and to all the members of the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition. And I just want to say, I think Linda, you and I connected maybe a year ago. And to be honest, at that point, I really hadn't heard that much about the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition. And yet it's been around for quite some time. And I just really appreciate your leadership in re-energizing it and in having a real impact. The social media you're doing, the forums, and obviously tonight's award ceremony really is lifting up the voices of people that have not been lifted up for many, many years. And I would say it's really been a key part of the fact that post 2018 criminal justice reform, you're continuing to see a push now for reform every session. So always great to see you and partner with you on these issues.
Thank you.
And absolutely. And to the board, good to see some of the board members that I don't know as well. And thanks for your advocacy as well. And of course, congratulations to Stacey and Leslie. And we have done a number of forums together. I know that Stacey was out in the district that I represent, I think in Sudbury at a congregation Bethel for a criminal justice forum. And Leslie and I have done a number of forums, mostly through my service as the Senate chair of the Criminal Justice Reform Caucus. So congratulations to you both, extremely well deserved. And I can't emphasize enough, and I've tried to say it as much as I can about what's happening this session and really what's happened since the 2018 criminal justice reform, is that as proud as I am for having passed that bill, we still really didn't hear from a lot of formerly incarcerated voices about what was going on in the prisons, how can we better support reentry, and how can we make sure that the legislation we're passing really has an impact on people with lived experience that have been behind the wall and who are formerly incarcerated. And that's really what's changed. I know, Andrea James' name was mentioned, a number of other individuals that I work with, but Leslie and Stacey, you have just quickly come to the forefront with your organizations that you've created. And I think that's really the sea change that's happened this session. And I'm happy to talk about some legislation. I would also really emphasize, and I know that the pace of change is very slow, but what I am really seeing this session, so the 2021-2022 session, is that as I had emphasized at the beginning of this legislative session, it's about prison reform. So it's about legislation like the prison moratorium bill, which has just been done incredible advocacy to prevent the construction of a new women's prison. It's about how incarcerated people are treated. They continue to be treated disgracefully behind the wall. And as we know, there are, literally U.S. Department of Justice lawsuits, as well as lawsuits by incarcerated people, including in one of the prisons I represent, Sousa Baranowski Correction Center in Shirley and Lancaster. But also about reentry and how we're providing, better support. And, the example I give of how slow change is, although I think it is hastening, is about 10 years ago, I worked with a constituent of mine to advocate for a very simple proposal that those that were released from prison would get a state ID so they could apply for a job, apply for housing, and really get back to being back in their community. That was 10 years ago, and it was only last year that the DOC fully committed to it and agreed to pay for the IDs for released individuals. So, that has been the slow pace of change, and I think that pace is quickening now. And I mentioned the prison moratorium bill. We're also, I think, making a lot of progress around reentry. really around reentry is providing more support for the kind of work that Stacey and Leslie are doing of actually creating housing and creating alternatives for people that are released. And there's two pieces to that. Is the first piece is reducing mass incarceration. So that's actually closing down our prisons. Obviously, we don't want a new women's prison, but also it's time to actually close prisons, to close the MCI Framingham facility for women and embrace decarceration, which so far the Baker-Polito administration has not done, but also start closing down men's prisons. And so we're really pushing for that. And that's important to reentry. And this is something Senator Brownsberger talked a lot about under the banner of Justice Reinvestment, which is a bill filed by Senator Chang Diaz and Representative Mary Keefe, is if we're reducing the spending in our prisons, and we're still not there yet, we still have to push for cutting the budget for the DOC. But when we get there, that's not just money, quote unquote, saved for the taxpayers, but it's actually investing it in communities disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs, often working class and communities of color, investing in job training, in education, building alternative housing and halfway houses. So that's really when we've reached justice reinvestment. So that's another bill that we're working hard to pass, is saying, wait a second, when we do reduce spending on prisons, when we do start closing prisons, that money should be invested into disproportionately impacted communities and not just seen as a savings for the bottom line of the state. So the justice reinvestment legislation. And then, how do we really support reentry? Testimony from a gentleman, Mr. Anthony Kataya, who testified several weeks ago before the Joint Committee on Judiciary that I chair, that served time in a federal prison. He talked about the fact that when he got out of prison, even though he had a number of skills, the different trade associations, the different licensing boards, things like being a plumber, being an electrician, often implicitly or explicitly do not allow someone who has a criminal record to be able to go into those professions. So we need to clear that up. We need to say that cannot be a prohibition from getting a job in those trades. And what is just so disturbing about the Department of Corrections now is that they actually have some of these trades in the state prisons, but once you get released, you can't actually get a job in those professions because of the different boards and their prohibition around having a criminal record. So we need to change that. There is a big push on expungement to be able to more easily expunge a record, a criminal record, including a big push around cannabis convictions, as well as how do we look at making sure that someone is not treated forever in a discriminatory manner for mistakes they made earlier in their lives. So that's also legislation to basically further reform the Corey laws to make sure that we're not going to punish someone again who he or she has done their time for their mistakes and they're ready to be back in the community. So those are just a few bills. I would say right now the big push is on prison reform, closing down those prisons, stopping the proposed new women's prison, and what are we doing around reentry and truly supporting people both upon release, but also in the facilities. Hopefully, and I know that Representative Liz Miranda is watching today, and a number of other of my colleagues, is that we have a prison visitation subcommittee that Representative Miranda leads. So we're going into state prisons, we're going into county jails, we're looking to speak directly to people. The most powerful thing that's happened over the past few years, and this is really where I credit Leslie and Stacey, is the power of formerly incarcerated people. The stigma, people are getting over the stigma. People are telling their stories about how horribly they were treated, and they're advocating for real change, both at the executive level, but also at the legislative level. So keep up the amazing work. I'm happy to talk about anything else going on, whether the Judiciary Committee or the Criminal Justice Reform Caucus. But again, to Linda, I just so thank your partnership and your friendship and your leadership of really reinvigorating the Criminal Justice Policy Coalition. And this gathering tonight is a perfect example of that. So thank you so much. And again, congratulations again to Stacey and Leslie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. I think the work that you do is so motivating and admirable. And, you've worked alongside with Stacey and Leslie. And that in and of itself just shows how a movement happens. And, the Congresswoman mentioned hope. And hope is what we need. And that's a driving factor. And something I like to think about is, what we're hopeful towards the future. And I know that Stacey and Leslie have a lot going on for this upcoming year. And I'd really love to take a moment for each one of you to share what you envision for this upcoming year, just basically to loop in, because, with Justice for Housing, you need some place to sleep. Yeah. You need the security of going to your home and feeling a part of a community and a society. And at some point, your dues are paid, and you want to go back. And I think, I talk to Leslie, and I see how hard that she works and connects people. I've been to Stacey's New Beginnings Reentry House, and the love and the care and the thought that was put into it, and the focus on mental and emotional health. I mean, she's building a theater for people to be able to talk through their trauma. There are so many levels to get there, and to work through the traumas that are there. And thank you also to all the legislators that have logged in today as well. And I'd love to take a few moments for Stacey and Leslie to talk about their plans moving forward for this year, for that we can look forward to.
Sure, Linda. Thank you. So at Justice for Housing, this year, we're focused on two major goals this year. Like Senator Eldridge said, we're trying to change that stigma. So we're repealing public housing policies. We partnered with Harvard University Tenant Advocacy Program. And last year we did focus groups and surveys, and we wrote a case study report that really details the collateral consequences that it has on minority communities. We have 12 policy recommendations. We started preliminary conversations with Senator Eldridge to implement state legislation to repeal those policies that have not been changed since 1990s. And they're outdated and antiquated and discriminatory. And public housing authorities are on board. We've talked to Boston Housing, Metro. They work there, but they don't like the policies either. So I think we're going to be successful in repealing those policies. And so everybody will have equal access to public housing. And our second initiative is home ownership. Our goal at Justice for Housing is to create home ownership opportunities for formerly incarcerated individuals. We've had conversations with Dept of Correction, and we're working on a project where we get long-term re-entry, not the 2 months, 3 months, a year, 18 months, and not communal living. Everybody will have an apartment, right? A single apartment to themselves where they can heal from the trauma. And we're building that out. That is our goal, not only to create single home ownership, but also to create a sustainable re-entry housing so that people can have the time to heal and then gain employment with a continuum of care with our partners, Whittier Street, City of Boston, Partakers. we're all communicating city life.
And I think that's wonderful. Healing goes hope with hand in hand, and we all need to be allowed to heal and to focus and deal with our past trauma and move forward. And actually that transitions into Stacey's plans for the upcoming year. You've got a lot of exciting things going on.
Yeah, my head is spinning right now. Everything that this young woman is doing is amazing. I'm just like floored. So, Leslie, it's just amazing work. Good focus. I'm grateful. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And Senator Eldridge, I really didn't mean that. I never wrote a speech, and I wrote a speech and I left my man out. How did I do this? You're amazing. Often we think that our politicians, our elected officials are foreign. And you have shown us, you and Congresswoman Pressley and Rachel Rollins and, Liz Miranda, Rep. Tyler, I can name them all. I never could name anybody before. And so we know that you're human and you're not untouchable. And I'm so grateful. I keep being in a space with you. Thank you for, supporting all the bills. I can't keep up. It's a lot. I say to Andrea James all the time, you guys get them out. You guys are writing the policies and really closing jails down. I'm loving you for saying that. Andrea, I say it to her, you guys get them out, we'll keep them out. That's what me and Leslie are planning to do. And so that's part of the work. I have to say that 2022 has started off like New Year's Eve. Shout out to Rachel Rollins. We got an email. I received an email. Andrea James got a phone call. Everybody's phone was ringing off the hook. Angie Jefferson is coming home. She has sent it to a second degree and can go up for parole. And Angie, this is just the life work that I committed to 12 years ago when I left that prison and I left my sister behind. She's coming home. Kimia Faust is coming home. She just went up for her pre-release status classification. We're praying that they class her out of that prison and she can move on. I need to say shout out to NOLA PD down in Louisiana. Mama Glow's home out of that Louisiana prison after 50 some odd years. She's free today. This is a remarkable movement. I never would have dreamed it sitting in that cell. I could tell you a whole list of things that New Beginnings Reentry Service is doing. You're right, Linda. We're building a stage, theater, world of arts, things that our community had never experienced. We have been left out of the loop for decades of resources, natural, meaningful resources that Black and brown people should have had decades ago. So the work that Leslie and I are doing in the fabulous work of Families for Justice is Healing and We Are Better Together Foundation, all things, art,
Yes.
organization, all the organizations that are really forming together formerly incarcerated people, bringing the community to where it's supposed to be. The work is amazing. And so at New Beginners Reentry Services, we've also was able to be a part of the community reinvestment grant. So we are able to hire formerly incarcerated people. Our staff will be formerly incarcerated. And so we're working on that part now. We're also looking at tomorrow morning, we're walking through with our building inspector for our certificate of occupancy. You wouldn't believe the work that it took to get these doors open, and we will have our certificate to open up the doors, bring the women into a world of array of services with Arthur over there at Partakers, who's ready to uplift our sisters with laptops.
Yeah.
You believe it? To allow
has been amazing, the work she's
literacy.
done.
We
Stacey?
have federal banks coming in. I'm sorry, Leslie. We have federal banks coming in to teach financial literacy. Who does that?
Mhm.
We didn't know how to open up a bank, not all of us, a bank account or have a checking account. Often we're left out of it because of our quarries. And so we have Boston College coming in to help us with business entrepreneurship. We have Simmons College students coming in to learn the world of social injustices so they can become social workers in helping us. We have, law students coming in so they can fight for the rights along with the participatory defense organizing space of FJA. We have My Turn program. This is the biggest one. Tufts University is allowing our women to come in 9 months. We've already had one graduate of FJA. I can't even think of her name because my head is just spinning right now. But 9 months courses with paid stipends, 12 college credits. And if they pass, they get to go and get their associates at Bunker Hill for free. How great is that? Like when we talk about advocacy, we can't just talk about freeing. We got to free people and get them some services so we can lessen recidivism.
Absolutely.
We don't deserve to be in cages. We just don't. And so I'm so grateful to you, Linda. The friendship building, the work that you do, the commitment that you've been doing, and watching you has been just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. So I love you. I'm just so grateful for all the advocacy. How great is that our sister, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, can get on here? She called me big sister last time I saw her. So, that is just coming from the National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. Got to give shout out to my sister, Andrea James, for leading the way of opening these doors. Who knew that we'd have such powerful leadership? When I named those women, I wasn't leaving you out again, Senator Eldridge. But I am a woman. I have suffered from trauma. I have been in a prison, and I'm just thinking about women's rights in the world of advocacy for our sisters. So thank you for allowing me to share that. I'm so grateful I had an opportunity to say, Senator Eldridge, thank you. Thank you for the work. Thank you for believing in us, and thank you for continuing to show up.
And thank you, Stacey, for the work that you do. Stacey has been instrumental in the work that I have done. I would not be here if it wasn't for Stacey Borden. And I have to name that because Stacey has brought so many people home from prison. And it was a shame how a Black woman who's from the community was blocked from opening a re-entry home to help other women better their lives. And the what they put her through her in her own community, I just have to name that and say that she is amazing that she survived and she's able to open those doors. And when she has her grand opening, I am going to be the first one there because
Leslie,
I am so proud of her.
I have to say that, I don't do this work alone. I have to give shout out to Leon Rock. That's my rock. He is a consultant firm, our consultant agent, our grant writer. He is the rock. He has been with me almost 6 years and walking me through. It's hard work when you're in the nonprofit world. And shout out to my fabulous student, Maya Page. I've been with her since she was in the 10th grade. And so she is now on her way to law school. Shout out to you, Maya. Thank you for being my right hand. And, shout out to my partner, James Marshall. When I cry at night, he's right there. When I need to ask him, what does this mean? He's right there. He's just an amazing man.
We just got him housing too.
So I think that
shout out to everybody.
This is all absolutely phenomenal. The Criminal Justice Policy Coalition is so honored to have had Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley with us, Senator Jamie Eldridge with us. We are so honored, Stacey and Leslie, that you have accepted these awards in honor of our former chair, Peg Erlanger. We hope to do many more events like this. To our audience out there, we will actually be sending from our coalition an email, and it will have a YouTube link to be able to watch this again, should you want to get some inspiration and motivation. And also, please, so as we all know, nonprofits they're tough to keep going. We do thrive on donations. Please go ahead and check out our site, www.cjpc.org, and check out our donation link. We'll also have links to to Stacey and Leslie's work and Senator Eldridge as well. We are so happy to have been able to do this today, and we're forever indebted to the work that you do, and we look forward to doing the work alongside you. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful evening full of hope, motivation, and bliss. Thank you so much for everyone for being here.
Good night.
Thank you, Lynn.
Good night.
Nice to begin, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.